Hello and welcome to Letters Home, a story of a World War II B-17 pilot from Lowell, Michigan, in his own words. And he just so happens to be my grandpa. I'm your host, Annie Whitlock, and I'm joined by my co-host, my dad, Mitch McMahon, my aunt, Lori McMahon Summerfield, and Dale Croft from the Lowell Historical Museum.
In each episode of Letters Home, we're going to dive into letters written by my dad during his time in World War II that he sent to his parents, siblings, and friends back home in Lowell, Michigan. We'll be reading his own words and giving some context as to what was happening in the world and in Lowell at the time he wrote these.
In this episode, we learn about raids in London and on German factories, and we read about Dad's time at the ye old Horse and Jockey, and hear about some of Dad's military honor.
That's for sure. In our last episode, we read a letter from Bruce from Scotland, where he'd been spending the first half of February 1944 on an assignment of some kind. We still don't know what it was. By mid-month, though, he was back at Thurley, flying missions and enjoying his usual spots. And we're going to start with a letter from February 25th, 1944, in his own words.
February 25th, 1944, Friday night. Dear Mom and Dad, there's a tavern not far from here that sometimes a few of the boys get together in and have a good old American songfest. I'm sure I'll not be divulging my exact whereabouts if I tell you the name of it, because there's probably a half dozen with the name of Ye Horse and Jockey in England. It's a quaint old English inn, quite similar to the Falcon Inn that I've told you about before. The proprietor of the H&J is a jolly old Irishman built along the lines of his beer barrels. His head is set, minus a neck, on powerfully built shoulders, and the face on that head always has a pleasant bunch of wrinkles that end up in a good-natured grin. He's bloody fond of us Yanks and enjoys the songs we sing. His favorites are Western songs and Southern ballads. He'll never let us stop singing until the curfew at 10, at which time he'll say, "How about a pint of bitters on the house?" That means it's 10 minutes to 10 and time to leave. Perhaps sitting around a fire singing songs doesn't sound like too exciting an evening, but there are 5 and sometimes 6 of us who usually go down to the H&J at least once a week and consider it the best time we have, including our trips to London or some other city. You've heard how pilots facing the enemy day in and day out get so that their nerves crave excitement, so they get rip-roaring drunk and raise all sorts of Cain. Well, it isn't true at all. Though perhaps some fellows do raise a lot of hell. Many do as we do and enjoy themselves very much. Well, I better hit the hay now. I'm sending a clipping again from my Stars and Stripes. Kind of shows you that those Mustangs really carry the mail. Good night and God bless you. Your loving son, Bruce.
We don't have that last clipping, I don't think. So I'm not sure what carry the mail means, but I do know.
Get the job done.
I think so. Okay, that makes sense. But I do know the Mustangs he's referring to are probably the P-51 Mustang fighters that go with him on their raids. And, of course, he did not write hell. He wrote H blank blank L. Fill in the blank. I also found the Horse and Jockey in Bedford, which is near Thurley, and they have dropped the ye from its name. Oh. And like the Falcon Inn, it now just looks like upscale dining. But we have more places to add to the itinerary.
There we go.
Of our future trip to Bedford, UK, for sure. But yeah, so it still exists. So next we're going to read an excerpt from a letter that touches on his time in England and missing home a little bit. And this one is from February 28th, in his own words.
Gosh, Mom, I'm sorry to hear you've been fluing it lately. Just remember, you got a job to do for me. That's to keep yourself in tip-top shape for my return. I know you're doing this, and just remember, I'm doing my best to keep up my end of that bargain, with the aid of all your prayers. I've written Mrs. Sansom, so don't worry about it anymore. I know that to be a PW sounds pretty bad, but I'm glad you know about Norm, because it'll help you to realize that even though we lose bombers, almost without exception, they parachute to safety. As a PW, Norm's mother won't worry anymore. Incidentally, they treat PW very well. The Germans obey all the rules of the Geneva Conference. One thing I was going to tell you, but forgot to. After you've read on these raids on London lately, you've probably worried, because I go there occasionally on a 2-day pass. Well, if you want me to stay away, I will. Though after going on missions, it seems funny to worry about getting hit with bombs through the Jerry's. But gosh, I'll do anything to help you from worrying. Now, it just seems like I've written this sometime before, no doubt, but I think it's so much that I have to occasionally say what a lucky guy I am to have Mr. and Mrs. F.J. McMahon as my parents. So many times, certain jobs or problems come up, and I say to myself, how would Dad go about it? Or, Mom always told me this. So much do I fall back on you. Not always is it something you've said or done in the past, but sometimes I think of you just as you are now and go on from there. The other day when I was irked about a detail, I caught myself saying, Judas, just as you've said 1,000 times, Dad. You're both such an everyday part of me that in many ways we are not separated at all. Only in the miles we are apart. I sometimes wonder if you'll think I've changed when you see me again. I know that time shows on a person's features, but in my heart, I'll be the exact same guy. I hope you don't think my pictures show me change very much, though I always expected to lose my hair by 30. Looks like now I'll have it still at 50.
Oh, so much in this letter. I'm pretty sure Bruce did still have his hair at 50, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he had a lot of it at 80, but my memory's a little fuzzy. But
Oh, yeah, he had really good hair. Yeah,
Yeah, so
he
he-
chucked it up to bananas and
Yeah, I missed
potassium.
out on that, Gene. Yeah.
Potassium, yeah. He was
Really?
Yeah.
Bananas, huh? Okay. Well, good for him. We also get another mention of Norm in this letter, his bombardier, who went missing in late 1943. Apparently, he has now found out that Norm was in the Stalag 3 prison and has perhaps written to his mother about it. Remember that Norm's mother called Lotta when Norm went missing. Bruce calls POWs PWs. That took me a minute to figure out, too.
Yeah, I said that, yeah.
But I don't know why. I don't know when that changed. That's an interesting piece. But Bruce calls them PWs. But I'm not sure that was as nice as what Bruce said it was. Like, I still am not buying it that the POWs had just fine time. But I don't know. And the Germans didn't exactly follow the Geneva Conference protocols in this war, as we know, in other aspects.
A lot of that was for Mom and Dad's benefit, I'm sure.
I'm sure it was. All right, well, now it's time to get into our segment where we talk about what was going on in the world and in Lowell in February 1944. Last episode, we focused mostly on local news, and this episode, we're focusing on war news. Bruce wrote a letter to his parents on February 24th, 1944, about these London raids that he mentioned in his last letter, in his own words.
February 24th, Dear Mom and Dad, well, by the papers again, London has been getting some fairly large bombing attacks again. Jerry must be trying to put some truth behind all the propaganda he's been feeding his people. I suppose I've already told you some of the attacks I've seen in London when I've been in there before. Since they now seem to be dropping them again, I'll try to give you the sensation that the average Britisher feels when an attack is going on. The first time I was ever in London that they had an alert, and the raid was quite a while ago. At the time of the alert, I was enjoying a good movie on a big theater. Without even interrupting the scene that was on the screen, they put a transparent superimposed the letters alert on the screen. After that, in the same method, they issued instructions for leaving. You can leave if you wish or remain in your seats. If you're going to the shelter, please cause as little inconvenience to your next seat neighbor as possible. Well, a few of the patrons arose from their seats and with many backward glances at the movie, went down into the shelter. Around me at the time were some young people and a few old couples. They never even took their eyes from the screen. The elderly couple across from me slipped on their coats and then settled back to enjoy the rest of the show. The most striking impression you would get from the whole thing is the evident unconcern that the people exhibit to the whole thing. After about a half hour from the time that the alert was shown on the screen, you could hear distant rumblings of the AA fire and an occasional tremor from the bombs that were dropped. Shortly after that, the words "all clear" were flashed on the screen, and there was still no interruption to the show.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Just be in the movie, and they're like, there's raid, and you're like, I'll just keep watching. That's crazy. And it's just fascinating how accustomed they were to raids at this point. And Bruce is mentioning them more for a reason right now. These raids in London were definitely picking up around this time in 1944. In fact, this time period is called the Baby Blitz. This early 1944. Dale, what do you know? Tell us about the Baby Blitz by the Germans in 1944.
The Baby Blitz of 1944, also known as Operation Steinbach, was a series of nighttime bombing raids on southern England by the Luftwaffe. It occurred between January and May 1944 and was the last major sustained bombing campaign of German bombers against Great Britain. The Baby Blitz, also known as Little Blitz, was a response to the Allied combined bomber offensive against Germany, which was gaining momentum. While it was partly intended as a form of retaliation, the Germans also aimed to disrupt Allied preparations for the upcoming invasion of France D-Day. The baby Blitz resulted in significant damage, including the deaths of over 1,500 people and injuries around 3,000 others. It was the final last-scale bombing campaign to use manned aircraft. After that, the Germans primarily used the V-1 flying bombs and the V-2 rockets. So that was really the last time they used planes.
Wow. Okay. Didn't know that. That's
So the
interesting.
blitzes of like 1941 were a lot heavier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They really destroyed like whole cities like Coventry,
Right,
as
yeah,
we talked
right.
about in another episode. And then they sort of died out for a while, I guess, and were picking up during this.
And
baby
obviously
blitz.
they've heard, rumors of the invasion. So
They
were
have.
trying to get things going there, too.
Yep.
So.
And we all know the Allies were planning for an eventual invasion, which we all know now happens on June 6, 1944. On February 29th, 1944, yes, that was a leap year, Bruce wrote home about his thoughts on planning for the invasion, in his own words.
War news looks very good these days. Just now on the news broadcast, it said Stalin had told FDR that Germany's end wasn't far off. I know you people back home must really get tired of hearing the invasion is just around the corner. But when we are coming to the corner, well, you must realize what a colossal task invasion is going to be. It's obvious that Germany's final bid for a favorable armistice will be the costly defense of those Pas de Calais shores. Because the invasion will be such a psychological factor, both sides, it's easy to see that both sides are going to fight for the victory. If a stalemate could be made by Germany after a beachhead on those French shores, she would be in a better position to ask for an armistice, rather than an unconditional surrender. Hitler's reasoning on this point is sadly out of line. What should be the obvious never has any amount of fighters, flak, or what have you turned back a fort from its target. Whole squadrons have been shot down, and yet even single forts have continued on their relentless journey to the target. There's only one way that a fort has ever been stopped short of its target, and that's by shooting it down. Isn't that a glorious tradition to be kept? Gives a guy a nice feeling to be part of such a force.
Aw. Yeah, and that's exactly what Will Reed did during that one mission. If you remember,
he kept
going
going
by himself to the target even when he was down to one engine. I wonder if Bruce was thinking about him when he was writing this. Like, we all go right there.
I need to look about where that shore,
The Pas de Calais.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in northern France. I've been to Calais, I think. I can't remember. It's been a while, but I think so.
Okay.
I think it was one of the rumored places that the
where it was
invasion
gonna
was
be.
going to happen. So there were several beaches
Places that they thought, yeah.
that they thought, and they kind of fortified a bunch of beaches in northern France to throw off the enemy, and
Right.
kind of. I think Calais was one of them. I'm pretty sure I've been there.
Okay,
I don't
Calais.
remember.
Alrighty.
It's been a while. If I have, it's been a while. Well, yeah, now it's time for our segment. Speaking of flying missions, we reveal information we know about Bruce's flight missions. And remember, for this information, we have to consult flight records and mission diaries from the historical website of the 306 Bomb Group and all of its squadrons. Before we get to one of his missions today, we have a couple of updates from Bruce. First of all, his captaincy was made official on February 26, 1944. If you remember from one of our previous episodes, Bruce has known he was getting promoted to captain for a while and has been doing the job already, but his promotion and the pay raise is finally here in this month of February. And on February 20th, 1944, Bruce flew on a mission to Leipzig, Germany. And this was part of a bombing campaign called Big Week, where the 8th Air Force planned to bomb several German factories over the course of a week. And the British RAF would bomb at night, and then we would come in during the day. Just really fix up the job, finish it up. So first up on this big week was Leipzig, and Bruce was on this mission. So this is from the combat diary.
Leipzig. When the curtains rolled up on the briefing map early this morning, our crews could see at a glance that an ambitious operation was in prospect. And it soon became clear that not only our primary, 80-odd miles south of Berlin, but also that the effort of the entire bombing command was aimed at leading aircraft factories all over northern Germany. Here was the beginning of our great plan to drive German planes out of the sky. First, to crush our factories. Our own eager beavers had their splendid share in the visual attack on the Erla ME-109 factory and the satisfaction of causing a great black cloud to rise out of the assembly plant. In fact, no more satisfactory target could be imagined for the bomber crew than an ME-109 factory. Aside from that, the beavers led the group on this day. Lieutenants J. Bruce McMahon and Russell Lund were in the lead plane's cockpit, Lieutenants Albert Stillwell and Daniel Logan in the nose to complete the lead team. From Magdeburg to the target, our crews found a channel in the clouds through which they could see the ground and do dead reckoning navigation to the target. Over Leipzig, they saw smoke from the RAF's work of the night before. All came home safely, assisted by the biggest fighter escort yet put up.
Yay for those Mustangs. Yeah. Another successful mission. We have a picture that Bruce took of that black cloud coming out of the Erla factory in our primary sources on the Lowell Historical Museum website.
Wow.
I know. And we'll put it on our Instagram. I mean, at least it's a giant cloud that he's labeled Leipzig. So, I mean, this makes sense to me.
And I know we should probably be getting paid by that Masters of the Air because we keep mentioning them. But every time it says when the curtains rolled up on the briefing map, I picture them sitting in those chairs and them pulling the curtain back, and there it is, you know. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Absolutely. They're getting revealed about big week when they just decided to bomb a bunch of factories that week. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to finish today with a short letter that Bruce wrote back home to tell his parents one of his latest accomplishments, in his own words.
Sunday night, February 27th, 1944. Dear Mom and Dad, well, by the time you receive this letter, my wire will probably already have reached you, so my captaincy won't come as news, but this will. Your youngest is going to support another medal. Gosh, you'll say I'll be getting steep-shouldered and swell-headed. Well, now I've been recommended for the Distinguished Flying Cross, and you can tell it to the Ledger because I'll be standing at attention receiving it in a couple weeks. I was given the DFC for a certain deal a short while ago over the fatherland. I know that's a pretty general statement, but you'll have to wait for the whole story, okay? I was just told about this medal this afternoon. I kind of half expected it, but didn't get the news until I was called in by the group CO this PM. There isn't much more news, so I'll drop a line to Marg and let her in on it. Good night and God bless you, your loving son, Bruce. P.S. Dad, you can hold that chest out a little further now. That's the only worth these medals are to me, just knowing that they'll make you feel proud of me. And P.S. I won't start sending that extra $100 a month until April. Then it'll come each month payable to you.
Aw, that's very sweet. And I will say, it's the podcast, you can't really tell this, but you can also look on his letters. When he wrote the sentence, I've now been recommended for the Distinguished Flying Cross, there are 2 exclamation points from Bruce. That is Bruce's double exclamation point. He's very excited.
Yeah.
Clearly very proud of this medal. So Dale, what can you tell us about the Distinguished Flying Cross? What is it and how would you earn one?
Bruce should be very proud of it because the Distinguished Flying Cross is a military decoration of the United States Armed Forces and is awarded to those who have distinguished themselves by single acts of heroism and extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight. It is one of the oldest military aviation awards in the United States. It is a bronze medal in the shape of a cross pate with a 4-bladed propeller depicted in the center. The ribbon is blue with a vertical red stripe flanked by white stripes. Subsequent awards are indicated by oak leaf clusters, which he gets. He has, if you go back to the pages, you'll see he earned many oak leaf clusters. The medal is the 4th highest award for heroism and the highest award of aerial achievement.
Wow.
The medal was established on July 2nd, 1926 by President Calvin Coolidge. Charles Lindbergh received the first presentation of the actual medal on June 11th, 1927. The only Distinguished Flying Cross for World War I service was awarded on June 14th, 2017, when 95th Aero Squadron Commander and Army Captain James Eli Miller was recognized for his action on March 9th, 1918, which made him the first American aviator serving the American unit to die in the war. While a precise number of Distinguished Flying Cross recipients is difficult to determine, the Distinguished Flying Cross Society estimates there are over 6,000 200 members are recipients, with potentially thousands more eligible to join. And we will, of course, you have already seen this Distinguished Cross in some of the earlier, but I'll have it reposted on our YouTube.
Well, I wonder what that certain
Presentation.
deal over the fatherland was.
I don't know. So-
did he ever talk about
No,
that?
I don't remember that.
Talking
Well,
about
that's what I was going to say. So we
Would've
have
been
the actual medal.
Yeah.
So you guys still have the actual medal,
Yep.
and it's engraved with his name. And then on the date of the medal says 2/1944. So
Oh,
I don't
it
know
happened that day. That means,
if that's the day he did the heroic act, then it might have been Leipzig, this Leipzig mission that we just talked about. But that would have been on the February 20th. So I don't. That can't.
It has to be.
It has to be. But it must have been when he.
What was the Scotland
Got
thing?
it?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what?
I don't know. He didn't say anything about flying in Scotland. Who knows? We couldn't find another one, and yeah. But I would have liked to really hear the story about how he got it. He never
I
talked
know.
to you guys about it.
No,
Oh man.
and we never asked.
maybe another question for Gail. Maybe I don't know.
It'll be another. Well, she was probably way too young.
Yeah, I don't know
if you would have
it's,
talked
it's
about
another
it.
question that we'll need to ask at a seance or something. Tell us,
Well,
Tell
yeah.
us.
So we have the medal, and as Dale mentioned, we have posted it before early on when we were showing off just all the different things Bruce did in the war. But we'll repost a picture of it so you can see what it looks like and see it's engraved and all.
I
that
feel like I
stuff.
need to put these things in a safety deposit box, or I need to, somebody needs to have them, and I mean, in the family. Yeah, we need to
I mean, they're
take care of them.
Yeah, we should probably.
I mean, I have
do
them,
know where
but-
it is now.
Yeah,
right?
I
Okay.
do. I do know where it is right now, but I keep thinking I should probably put it in a more prominent and displayed case.
Yeah, why not?
And the air medal, too. I mean,
Oh,
the
I
air
know.
medal and the
Yeah.
Distinguished Flying
Yeah.
Cross.
He won a few air medals,
Yeah.
and he didn't actually write about all the ones because I saw quite a few of his, but I think only one Distinguished Flying Cross, so that's a big deal. Well, that's
Yeah.
it for today. We're actually taking a short little break, just 1 week off, and then we'll be back with letters from March of 1944. So thank you all for listening to Letters Home. We hope you continue to listen as we go through Bruce's story. You can listen to Letters Home on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Lowell Historical Museum website and YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Thursday. The Lowell Historical Museum has digitized versions of Bruce's letters, so you can read them in full, along with primary sources for most of the people, places, and events we've talked about here today, and more. You can also follow the Lowell Historical Museum on Facebook and the Letters Home podcast on Instagram at Letters Home Lowell. Thank you to Roger McNaughton for our podcast music, and to Lowell Radio for letting us record in their studio at Lowell High School every week. Stream it at lowellradio.org. See you next time.